everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back in a Hong Kong content review, and today we're talking about 88 Films' brand new release for John Woo's Vietnam classic and masterpiece, that is Sunset Warriors, with the alternative title Hero Shed No Tears, done by Golden Harvest, released in 1986. This is the original vision for the film, restored, brand new transfer found from the original negatives from Korea, which had a partnership back in the day, and we are finally, from the glories of 2025, get to see something that probably a lot of people have never got a chance to see before. Stuck on an old VHS, low quality, low res kind of version for the longest possible time. Had a very small release in Korean cinemas, where it was on cinemas and then kind of vanished. And somehow, somewhere, someone found it, and 88 got the rights to it again, because they've always previously done their Hero Shed No Tears release quite some time ago, which had both the international cut and the Hong Kong version. And this has quite a story, quite a background about it. Rest assured, if you're thinking to yourself, I'm not too sure if I should buy this, not too sure if I should pick this one up or not, think about it. This is John Woo's original movie in its full glory, 97 minutes, and you also do get the Hero Shed No Tears alternative cuts as well. This is a great addition from 88. Nice rigid kind of packaging as well. Actually, in its original title, Sunset Warriors, or in Korea, I think 4 Dead, 1 Alive, if I'm not mistaken. And there's the alternative artwork. There you go. And the best thing about it is you do get both cuts of the film on double disc, essentially. There you go there. And you get your poster and your booklet. So this is the definitive version of the film. With this edition, you get all 3 cuts of the film, including, of course, the Sunset Warriors, which is 98 minutes long. You get the Hong Kong version, which is 88 minutes, which is the Hero Shed No Tears version. And you get the international version, which is 85 minutes. So you get all 3 cuts. The definitive version, the best version to watch, and the only version you should be watching is the Sunset Warriors version. Holy shit. Wow. This was incredible to watch.
That was great. If I could be honest for a second, that was great. It was pretty good. No, you know what? It was spectacular.
Now, I haven't seen Hero Shed No Tears in quite some time. It was back when I was watching Hong Kong cinema for the very first time and getting into many different types of directors, and John Woo was definitely late to the game, of course, with watching The Killer and Hard Boiled and Bad Tomorrow, and then Hero Shed No Tears was one of them, thanks to the 88 release. And I always enjoyed it, but I always felt there was something off. But I never knew the bigger kind of impact in terms of like had on terms of the original version. And that's something you kind of get to know more when you start watching something like the Hong Kong cinema kind of genre, essentially, in terms of the gambling sequences, the more steamier sex scenes, and just the alterations and things and changes. You're so mind blown and so impressed by the action set pieces, which Hero Shed No Tears and in this original version has some incredible action. Most of it is literally the same, apart from some alterations. It's just an incredible thrill ride for about 90 odd minutes, and the action, the fight sequences, the gunplay, the grenades, and all that kind of stuff, it's brutal as hell. Very kind of Vietnam War, down and dirty kind of film. Point A to point B to point C, just a thrill ride of a film from start to finish. And that does apply to the original version as well. It isn't until much later on when you realize what the gimmicks were, what the Golden Harvest were trying to go for. Mid-80s, what was selling was the category free, was the sex, was the violence, was the kind of the comedy, the goofy comedy, and gambling sequences, gambling moments. They were the hot things they wanted in these films, because that's what people were turning up for. And when they got delivered John Woo's brooding, very serious Vietnam pulse thrill ride from start to finish, 98 minutes, they hated it, they didn't want it, and they basically sat on this film for a while. They brought someone else in to redirect some of those scenes, adding new scenes with some of the soldier characters called Lewis, and basically add an alternative death, had more gambling, had some steamier stuff, trimmed down some of the character moments, altered a flashback sequence, and just ultimately messed with the film to the point where they released it in 1986. I think it was completed a couple of years beforehand, and they released it at the same time as A Better Tomorrow, John Woo's other classic and masterpiece that defined his career and basically put his name on the map, and was the biggest film of that entire year. And Golden Harvest saw the opportunity and released Hero Shed No Tears, splattering John Woo's name all over that film. Very interesting kind of backstory. Some of it would have been covered in the original version they did for Hero Shed No Tears, but this is expanded upon and really talked about in a modern sense, with more information gathered on the new Sunset Warriors version. You get a brand new interview talking about the film, talking about what the original version was and what the agreements were, how essentially this film was found. Essentially, the only reason we got this version of the film is because they had Korean actors involved in Sunset Warriors, and they had a very limited screening release in basically their cinema at the time, and then got the original version on their VHSs, which was the work print version, which essentially was what the John Woo's original cut was, and which is available on low res kind of quality. Obviously, between that 1986 until now, someone has found the original negatives, give it to 88 Films because they own the rights to it during the time for the original release they did, and restored it. Brand new audio commentary, brand new extra, including the original disc with all the original supplements and all the original cuts of the film as well. So definitely the definitive edition. Now, the storyline for Sunset Warriors, or Hero Shed No Tears, purely comes down to tone in terms of how it's delivered. It has a lot of the same kind of action. It's just the alternative moments really do make a difference here in terms of the original version being a lot more serious, being a 98-minute thrill ride from start to finish. It's very grounded, it's darker and brooding, and has more character moments. It feels a bit more boots on the ground. Even though the action is completely absurd, it feels like a living, breathing kind of like situation they're in terms of the characters' deaths, in terms of these more intimate moments and the motivations these characters have. I wouldn't say these characters are the most like Oscar-winning performances you can see in something like Saving Private Ryan, for instance, but these little moments here and there, these little pauses, really do make a difference to the film and add a bit more character to these, these troops, and getting from point A to point B, versus the Hero Shed No Tears version, which is basically a very similar cut, however trims down some of the additional action and violence, trims down the ending as well, and adds in more goofy comedy, adds in a steamy kind of sex scene, as gambling sequences mentioned, Lewis's character as an alternative death, and just a bit more kind of sillier comedy, adds a bit more of a lighter edge to it. It's not terrible, but it definitely wasn't meant to be in the film, and it is out of place. It is tonally a bit of a weird kind of left field compared to what the film's trying to go for. And I think it purely comes down to your personal taste in terms of what you want to see. I think if you're a John Woo fan, I think if you want to see something a bit more authentic to his original version, I think definitely the Sunset Warriors version is the way to go, and it definitely delivers. But if you're not invested in what's going on, if you don't care about the story, if you don't care about these characters, if you're not attached to what's happening, it's all going to fall apart. Luckily, with the original version, that wasn't the case. It just was a bit off, and it was a bit strange. And they grab this drug lord / general character, and they have to get him from point A to point B, essentially get him across a reign of terror from start to finish, get him to a military base, while our main character basically wants to get a green card for himself and for his family to go to America and to basically start fresh. Some of the other troop characters also want to go to America. Some are there for just the money, some are there just for various kind of motivations and different reasons, as explained within the intro kind of crawl sequence, where basically this kind of small troop of characters, it's coming towards the end of this kind of Vietnam kind of war, essentially, this kind of very brutal one of war, and they basically have one last attempt to basically achieve what they want to go for in terms of their motivation. And I think that's very simple, it's very effective, and it works really well for what the film's trying to go for. And from grabbing this drug lord, basically they come across another general character played by Lam Chi-ying, which is from the Mr. Vampire series, and he is fucking awesome. He is great. He is a nasty motherfucker. And it's great to see him play a villain role. I think he has played other villains before, but I've known him as the Mr. Vampire, the Talisman Priest. Obviously, he was like a really interesting role in Her Vengeance, where he played this kind of like, ex kind of triad kind of character in a wheelchair. And him to play this real nasty character who basically wants revenge, and, through being shot in the eye. And, he makes, shoots his own troops, he makes alliances, he blackmails other tribes to basically track down them and basically kill them. And he is on their tail. He is Mr. X in this film, and he is having none of it, and he's someone very, you know, to the cause, to his position, to his power, and he is being left defeated and ashamed. And I love the fact in this original version that instead of him just squirreling away, he basically does almost get killed completely, because our main character, played by Eddie Hong in the film, basically has a shotgun to his face and lets him live, despite, you know, all of his troops being killed, you know, completely his little mini hub base area being completely destroyed. This is choosing to go for revenge and go after him by any means necessary. And he has this really cool kind of bullet wound in his eye, and he's constantly having this patch, which is constantly full of blood and it's spilling out. And just his reactions and how he speaks to his troops and how he blackmails, how he kills, it's just pure vengeance, pure evil, and it's really awesome. It's really a lot of fun. Even towards the third act fight scene, when you get that final showdown, it is basically 2 minutes longer, and it's really kind of brutal. It's very nasty, of course, and just some of the alterations and changes that John Woo in its original version makes the world of difference to that character. And I think he's a real force to be reckoned with. It's a lot of fun to watch on screen. It's a real kind of heart-beating kind of thrill ride from start to finish. And I like the fact that in the original version just have those moments of clarity and just, you know, a bit of general kind of nice humor, not silly kind of Hong Kong humor, but just character humor, just, you know, niceness kind of thing. And having those kind of small moments with the cave, I think was really cool, and just having that kind of banter and interaction, I think is really awesome. And again, just diving into, again, more of their motivation in terms of this really great sequence when he makes an American troop basically saying, like, you know, you're from America, why don't you go back home? Or you're from China, why don't you go back to China? And just really kind of deconstructing their motivation for getting out of the country. The problems isn't, you know, necessarily in the country, it's internal, it's yourself, you know, and, you know, trying to find some form of peace, trying to find some form of belonging, and, you know, getting away from all the chaos. You know, it's not always easy as just simply leaving your country and going off to war and going somewhere else. That stuff's always going to follow you. And as the American soldier said in the film, which I think is quite good, is that, you know, the same problems here are happening over in America. People are still killing people, and it might not be what you think. That American dream might not be what you want. And it's just that's something that plays in the mind of our main character. And I really love that. I think it's really great. And I think he goes through absolute hell to get this kind of drug lord to the finish line while trying to save his son, while trying to protect his troops. Go and check it out. Go and support 88 Films. Pick up the edition. It's available now. Definitely the definitive version. If you're a fan of John Woo, if you haven't seen this cut, you owe it to yourself to watch it. So what are your thoughts and opinions on Sunset Warriors? Please comment down below. What are your thoughts on the Hong Kong version, the Hero Shed No Tears? Do you prefer that potentially? Comment down below. So meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.